There comes a quiet, heavy moment in every life when you look around and realize nobody is coming to rescue you. No magical moment is going to fix your life. This is exactly what a young man named Stephen realized one rainy night while looking at his own reflection. He was drifting, waiting for a sign, until he decided to pack a single bag and face the uncomfortable truths we all run from. In this video, you will follow Stephen's journey through the 10 brutal, beautiful lessons you must learn to survive entirely on your own. Pay close attention to lesson number 7, because when everything falls apart, that single truth is what changes a person forever. Let's begin. The story, Do It Alone. Once upon a time, in a quiet town, lived a young man named Stephen. To everyone else, Stephen's life looked completely fine. But inside, he felt like he was drifting at sea. He was constantly waiting for a lucky break, waiting for someone to fix his problems, waiting for a sign. One evening, while staring at his reflection in a rain-splattered window, a heavy realization hit him. Nobody was coming to rescue him. There would be no magical moment where his life suddenly sorted itself out. It was just him, standing face to face with his own fears. To find himself, Stephen packed a single bag and walked away from his comfortable life. This is the story of his journey through the 10 truths of standing alone. Chapter 1. Master the silence of your own company. When Stephen first arrived at a small, isolated cabin in the woods, the silence was deafening. For the first few days, his hand constantly twitched for his phone. He wanted to scroll through social media, play loud music, or call someone, anything to escape the quiet. But by the second week, something shifted. He learned to sit on the porch with a cup of tea, watching the sunset, perfectly content. He no longer needed noise to feel alive. He had mastered the art of being alone without being lonely. Chapter 2. Suffer and rebuild in absolute silence. 1 month into his journey, a severe storm hit the valley. The roof of Stephen's cabin leaked, his firewood soaked through, and he spent 3 days cold, wet, and shivering in the dark. His old instinct was to complain online or call a friend for pity. Instead, he kept his struggle to himself. When the sun finally came out, he quietly went to work, fixing the roof and chopping new wood. In that quiet struggle, without anyone watching or cheering him on, Stephen discovered a deep, inner resilience he never knew he had. Chapter 3. Walk into the world unaccompanied. Once his cabin was repaired, Stephen decided to visit the nearest bustling city. Walking into a crowded, popular restaurant, he asked the host for a table for one. At first, he felt self-conscious, imagining everyone was judging him. But as he ate his meal and watched the world go by, a wave of freedom washed over him. He went to a movie theater alone, and then took a long walk through the city park. He realized he didn't need a companion to enjoy the beauty of the world. Chapter 4. Step into the dark without a guarantee. Leaving the city, Stephen reached a fork in the road. One path led back to his old, predictable town. The other path wound high up into a misty, unfamiliar mountain. There were no signs, no maps, and no guarantees of what lay ahead. His hands shook with anxiety. But Stephen knew that staying stuck in comfort was worse than facing the unknown. He took a deep breath, turned away from his old life, and stepped onto the misty mountain path. Chapter 5. Cut the cords of the past. While walking that high path, Stephen had a lot of time to think about his relationships. He remembered a friend from back home who constantly put him down, drained his energy, and held him back from his dreams. Stephen had held on to the friendship out of habit. Standing on the mountain peak, looking at the vast horizon, he finally let go of the guilt. He mentally wished the old friend well, cut the emotional cord, and decided he would only carry uplifting relationships into his future. Chapter 6. Look in the mirror and admit your weaknesses. One afternoon, Stephen got completely lost. He sat down on a rock, frustrated, and immediately began blaming the confusing mountain trails and the bad weather. But then he stopped. He looked at his reflection in his water canteen. The truth was, he hadn't prepared properly. He hadn't studied the terrain. He admitted his own laziness to himself. The moment he stopped making excuses and took ownership of his mistake, he was able to think clearly, find his bearings, and get back on track. Chapter 7. Gather the ashes and begin again. Disaster struck on the third month of his journey. A sudden camp accident caused a small fire that destroyed Stephen's tent, his map, and most of his supplies. He was left with almost nothing. Sitting among the literal ashes of his gear, he wanted to cry and give up. But instead, he took a deep breath. He gathered what scraps were left, built a temporary shelter from branches, and began again. He realized that a collapse isn't the end of the story. It's just where the new chapter begins. Chapter 8. Disconnect from the Matrix. Eventually, Stephen returned to civilization and visited a local cafe. Everywhere he looked, people were glued to their screens, modern captives to notifications, likes, and endless digital noise. Stephen looked down at his own phone, which had finally regained a signal. It was buzzing like crazy. Smiling quietly, he turned the device completely off and slipped it into his bag. He chose to look out the window at the real, breathing world, knowing his worth wasn't tied to a digital screen. Chapter 9. Accept the gift of being misunderstood. When Stephen briefly reconnected with a few people from his past, they laughed at his journey. They called him foolish, strange, and told him he was wasting his time. In the past, their criticism would have crushed him. But Stephen just smiled gently. He accepted that they lived in a different world and would never understand his path. He didn't argue or try to win their approval. He simply walked away, wrapped in the beautiful peace of not caring what others thought. Chapter 10. Take absolute ownership of your future. On the final day of his year-long journey, Stephen stood on a high cliff overlooking the ocean. He thought about his past mistakes, the years he wasted waiting for a savior, and the hardships he had faced. None of it mattered anymore. Those things did not define him. He knew that while he couldn't change where he came from, he was the sole author of where he was going. He took absolute responsibility for his life. The verdict. Stephen returned to the world a completely transformed man. He wasn't louder or grander, but he carried an unbreakable quiet strength. He had faced the discomfort of the wild, learned its brutal lessons, and kept moving forward. He no longer looked at the horizon waiting for a rescue party. He looked in the mirror, smiled, and knew that he had already saved himself. Do it alone. Motivation life lessons. The audacity to stand alone. There comes a quiet, heavy moment in every life when the illusions finally fade. You look around, and the realization hits you. Nobody is coming to rescue you. There is no cinematic soundtrack about to swell in the background. No perfect opportunity is going to land in your lap, and no magical event is going to suddenly make the chaos of the world make sense. The music has stopped. It is just you, standing entirely on your own, face to face with the very challenges you have spent months or years trying to run from. The uncomfortable truth is that the most defining lessons in life cannot be taught in a crowded room. They can only be learned in exile. They can only be learned alone. And while these lessons are forged in discomfort, they shape you into someone stronger than you ever imagined possible. If you want to truly own your destiny, here are the 10 brutal, beautiful things you must learn to do entirely on your own. 1. Master the silence of your own company. Most people are terrified of their own minds. They fill every empty second with artificial noise, scrolling through social media, blasting music, playing videos, or sending meaningless messages. They do anything to avoid being trapped in a room with their own thoughts. But true power begins when you turn off the noise. When you can sit quietly in an empty room and genuinely enjoy your own company, you break free. You stop depending on the outside world to distract you from yourself. 2. Suffer and rebuild in absolute silence. Not every battle needs an audience. We live in a world where people rush to post their heartbreaks and setbacks online, begging for validation. But when life knocks you down, when you fail, when your confidence shatters, when your plans turn to ash. That is your sacred ground. Your real character isn't built when the crowd is cheering for you. It is built in the shadows, when nobody even knows you are struggling, and you choose to stand back up anyway. 3. Walk into the world unaccompanied. There is a unique bravery in doing things alone. Go to a restaurant and ask for a table for one. Sit in a movie theater by yourself. Take a long walk through a crowded city without a companion. These small acts teach you independence. The more comfortable you become moving through the world in your own presence, the less you will ever crave or need the approval of others. You become your own anchor. 4. Step into the dark without a guarantee. Life does not hand out maps. At some point, you will reach a crossroads where you must choose a direction, even though you cannot see where the path leads. Many people paralyze themselves waiting for absolute certainty, but waiting for a guarantee means staying stuck forever. Growth does not happen in safety. It happens when you take a deep breath and step forward into the unknown, trusting yourself to handle whatever you find there. 5. Cut the cords of the past. Not everyone who walks into your life is meant to walk with you to the end. Some people are only meant to be a chapter, not the whole book. When relationships become toxic, one-sided, or heavy weights that drag you down, you must learn to let them go. Walking away from people you once loved is deeply painful. But sometimes, walking away is the ultimate act of self-respect. The turning point of your life begins the moment you stop looking for a savior in the crowd and realize the only person who can save you is looking back at you in the mirror. 6. Look in the mirror and admit your weaknesses. It is incredibly easy to blame your problems on bad luck, unfair circumstances, or other people. It is much harder to look at your life and admit that you are the one holding yourself back. Real transformation doesn't start with self-praise. It starts with brutal honesty. The moment you stop making excuses for your bad habits and start taking ownership of your flaws is the exact moment you gain the power to change them. 7. Gather the ashes and begin again. Rebuilding your life from scratch is terrifying. When everything falls apart, you lose your comfort, your routine, and your sense of security. It feels like death. But look at history. Every great person has had a moment where they lost everything and had to rebuild from the ground up. Do not fear the collapse. A new, grander chapter of your life can only begin where the old one completely ends. 8. Disconnect from the matrix. We live in a world designed to steal your attention. Notifications buzz, messages pop up, and an endless stream of content fights for every microsecond of your focus. It is easy to lose your soul to the screen. Learning to intentionally disconnect, to unplug the phone, step away from the digital noise, and look at the real world, reminds you of a vital truth. Your human worth is not measured by how many people are noticing you online. 9. Accept the gift of being misunderstood. No matter how kind, intelligent, or well-meaning you are, some people will simply not like you. They will criticize your choices, misinterpret your words, and judge your life. Trying to win over every critic is a war you will never win. True, unbreakable peace only arrives when you finally stop living your life to please other people's opinions. Let them misunderstand you. Your life is not their business. 10. Take absolute ownership of your future. Your past has shaped you, but it does not have the power to dictate your future. The mistakes you made yesterday, the opportunities you watched slip through your fingers, and the trauma you have endured do not get to decide the rest of your story. The exact second you say, "This is my responsibility," you take your power back. You cannot change yesterday, but you hold the pen that will write tomorrow. The verdict. The strongest people on this planet are not those who have lived a life free of pain and discomfort. They are the ones who felt the weight of the world, faced it alone in the dark, learned from it, and kept moving forward anyway. Take a deep breath. The rescue party isn't coming. Save yourself. Learn English from this story. English lesson, vocabulary and expressions from the story. Let's break down the advanced vocabulary idioms, and unique phrases used in Stephen's journey to help you improve your English fluency. 1. Key vocabulary words. Nestled, verb, settled comfortably or hidden partially inside something. From the story. In a quiet town nestled between rolling hills. How to use it. The small cottage was nestled among the trees. Deafening, ADJ extremely loud. Interestingly, we also use it to describe a silence that feels heavy or uncomfortable. From the story, the silence was deafening. How to use it. The crowd made a deafening noise when the goal was scored. Resilience, noun, the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, toughness. From the story, Stephen discovered a deep, inner resilience. How to use it. Her resilience helped her get through a very difficult year at work. Bearings, noun, awareness of one's position or direction. From the story, think clearly, find his bearings, and get back on track. How to use it. Without a map, it took me a few minutes to find my bearings in the new city. 2. Idioms and phrasal verbs. Drifting at sea. An idiom meaning to feel lost, aimless, or without direction in life. From the story, inside, he felt like he was drifting at sea. Knocks you down. A phrasal verb meaning to defeat, overwhelm, or cause someone to fail. From the story, when life knocks you down, that is your sacred ground. Cut the cords. An idiomatic expression meaning to break an emotional or physical attachment to someone or something from the past. From the story, he finally let go of the guilt. He mentally cut the emotional cord. Glued to their screens, a very common modern idiom, meaning to look at a phone or computer completely fascinated, without looking away. From the story, everywhere he looked, people were glued to their screens. Practice challenge for you. Can you practice your English right now? Choose one new vocabulary word or idiom from above, like resilience or find your bearings, and write your own sentence in the comments below. I will check your grammar. Final thoughts. Stephen returned to the world a completely transformed man. He wasn't louder or grander, but he carried an unbreakable, quiet strength. He had faced the terrifying discomfort of the wild, learned its brutal lessons, and kept moving forward anyway. He no longer looked at the horizon, waiting for a rescue party. He looked in the mirror, smiled, and knew that he had already saved himself. The strongest people on this planet are not the ones who avoid hard times. They are the ones who face the darkness alone, gather the ashes, and build themselves back up. Remember, you cannot change where you came from yesterday, but you hold the pen that writes tomorrow. Take a deep breath. Your rescue party isn't coming. It's time to save yourself. If Stephen's journey inspired you today, hit the like button and subscribe to join our community. Leave a comment below letting me know which of the 10 lessons resonated with you the most. And if you want to keep building your inner strength right now, click on the video on your screen to start the next story. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.